Welcome to the Work Trends podcast from Talent Culture. I'm your host, Megan Mbiro. Every week, I interview interesting people who are reimagining work. And be sure to check out our Work Trends Twitter chat events calendar located at talentculture.com on the podcast page. Welcome, everyone, to today's sponsored Talent Culture Work Trends podcast. We have a very interesting topic today, video interviews. Whoever has gone on one knows that it is a different beast, both from the perspective of the candidate and the recruiter or hiring manager. However, it is very real, and it's changing the way employers conduct recruitment. Back in February 2020, a report from Aptitude Research showed that less than 60% of U.S. companies used or plan to use video interviewing in their HR processes. Just a few months later, at the height of COVID-19, a Gartner study revealed that 89% of organizations have used video interviews to hire talent. This number is expected to rise even more as video interviews become increasingly popular. This means that it's important for employers to understand the benefits of video interviewing and get more comfortable with it. We asked Sean Fahey of VidCruiter to come and join us today. I am very happy that he obliged, and we are in fact doing this sponsored episode with him virtually. Can you imagine a virtual interview about video interviews? Go figure. But first, let's get to know Sean. Sean is an award-winning business leader, serial entrepreneur, and CEO of VidCruiter, one of the fastest-growing remote recruitment companies on the market. He holds an MBA in entrepreneurship from Florida Atlantic University, and after years of first-hand recruitment experience, he is passionate about sharing what he knows so others might find the same level of success he has had. So welcome to the show, Sean. I'm sure there's going to be lots of juicy takeaways from you today.
Thanks, Megan. I appreciate it.
So I have to ask you something first, though. How many degrees is it where you are today? Give it to us straight.
It's actually 34. It's not that bad. But the thing is in the last 3 days, we got about 25 to 30 inches of snow.
And you are where right now?
So for your listeners who may not be familiar with the East Coast of Canada, I always like saying, if you take I-95, which is across the East Coast of the U.S., and you go right to the end of the road, we live at the end of the road there. It's a place called New Brunswick, just north of Maine.
Awesome stuff. Thanks for being here. Let's dive right in. What is video interviewing and what are the different types? There's so many flavors.
Most people aren't aware of how you can use video for recruiting. And yes, there are different types. The most popular would be like a Teams or Zoom or Skype type interview. And we have that solution here at VidCruiter, and we've repurposed it to be recruitment specific. But the most popular type is what's called an asynchronous interview, or an on-demand or pre-recorded interview. And that concept is, if you were to look at the consumer market, is more like Netflix than it is like FaceTime. In the sense that a candidate will record themselves on their own time at home, and you'll watch that recording of them answering your interview questions at some point in the future. And that type of interviewing is the most common or most popular that we see in the market, so that recruiters can save a lot of time, and so can hiring managers.
Well, we love that, don't we? I mean, saving time. What are the common myths when we're talking about video interviewing? Because again, I think we have all these things that are preconceived. Let's unpack.
Sure. When you're looking at the myths of video interviewing, and specifically the one where it's pre-recorded or on demand and people record at home, a lot of candidates don't realize what's actually going on behind the scenes. They think I'm just sort of recording here and I don't know what's happening. And what we like to do is sort of debunk a lot of the myths surrounding the use of those kinds of tools. We often hear candidates talk about, well, I'd rather, meet with you in person or talk to you. And the purpose of this tool is not to eliminate the in-person interview or a video conference. It's the step before that. And so if you think about it, typically an organization, what we would do here is we replace the phone screen. And so typically an organization, when they're looking at phone screens, would maybe phone screen 5, 10, 20 people. And if you're one of the lucky that happen to have the perfect resume, you may get a phone screen. The benefit of a pre-recorded interview is that you can now open the pool up to whoever is remotely qualified. And so you're giving a chance to 20, 30, 40, 50 candidates, if you have that many in certain roles, to be able to showcase themselves and explain why they're the right candidate. So more candidates get an opportunity to interview. Now, that's a benefit when you have a lot of candidates. If you have a very small pool, some of our clients will call candidates and say, hey, we'd like you to do this on-demand interview or pre-recorded interview. It's going to be watched by 10 or 15 different managers, different departments, different people that need your kind of skill set across our organization. And so the flip side of this is that you now just did an interview with 15 different people. If it's like more of an entry-level job. Whereas if you only did a phone screen, you're only maybe considered for one role. So a lot of the myths that people don't realize is this tool enables more people to have a conversation, more people to see your profile, more people to be interviewed. The goal is not to eliminate the in-person or the video conference that you're going to have after. It's to facilitate who will go there first. So those are some of the common myths that we see from the applicant's point of view.
What about this whole hiring bias conversation, which is so real, so timely? How does video mitigate some of this?
That's a great question. Oftentimes people think that video increases bias, and it's actually the opposite. If you think about biases that occur in the interview process, whether it's a phone screen or in-person screen, really what we're talking about is that everyone is not treated the same way. And so when you use a pre-recorded interview system, every single candidate had the exact same question, the exact same amount of time to think about that question, the same difficulty level within the question, the same probing questions, and the same answer time. And so everyone was treated identically. If you went to FAU, like I went to, and we happen to talk about the Owls and talk about school, I might have a little bit of a bias as towards hiring you versus someone who didn't go to the same school as I did. And having those conversations about where you're from or who you know or what school you went to, those happen in regular conversations. And it's kind of hard sometimes to not have small talk, but that can create bias. And so sometimes when you hear an interview question, or an answer, I should say, and the candidate's talking and you probe, but you didn't probe every candidate. And so by probing that candidate to give a better answer, you're helping them guide them towards what the interview should say, what you're looking for. And so the purpose of this, and one of the reasons it reduces bias, is that everyone is treated identically. So that's the first component in terms of the applicant side. The other component of the bias reduction, if you think about it, is that if I have a bias, it's going to percolate in any kind of interview that I do, right? Whether it's an in-person interview, a video conference, or what have you, a phone interview. With this kind of technology, I can share that interview with multiple people. So all four of us could watch an interview and determine who we want to meet with next, right? Whoever's involved in these conversations could watch, whether you're a panel of 4 or 5 or 2, and the probability of us having the same bias is dramatically reduced by multiple people evaluating that person. And then the third component is, how is the evaluation done? And so if you think about it, everyone's treated the same way. Now, more than one person can be part of the evaluation criteria. And how are we doing our criteria? And so that's where VidCritter's tools and other vendors within the space have what's called structured interview evaluation guides built into the on-demand or video interview solution. So that when you're watching that candidate, you have the proper evaluation metrics and guides assisting you to make the right decisions.
At what point does it just get to be too many people in the interview process there? You mentioned up to 5. At some point, does it just get ridiculous?
It depends on how thorough you want to be in terms of, how many interviews you're going to do, how many different people are going to be at every stage. You're right that, some organizations won't have 5 panelists watch one candidate or applicant, but you do want to have more than one participate. And then in terms of the number of interviews you want to do, there's some research that Google did. They found that 5 interviews was the best predictor, and more than that was a waste of time. And they researched a lot of the candidates that went through and a lot of the interviews that went through. So it's really up to the organization how much time they have, but more than 5 would be too much, in my opinion. 2 or 3, whatever you'd like. But the beauty of this kind of pre-recorded and on-demand interview is that you can then screen and get to the faster people faster, or the quality people faster, I should say.
It seems like every single place we turn, wherever we're going right now, we hear about artificial intelligence. Does it have a place in video interviewing?
I think eventually it will, but I don't think it's ready today. And so the perfect analogy that we think about, we have these discussions internally, is there's a couple different factors that artificial intelligence is based on, which isn't 100% reliable. The first one is as an example, if you talk to Siri in your phone or Google Voice in your phone or even Alexa, what percentage of the sentence that you say did it capture properly? And so maybe sometimes it's 100%, sometimes it's not close. It's 90, 80%. Now, typically those sentences are 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Try talking to Siri and have the phone repeat to you 5 minutes of talk time. And tell me what percent accuracy you think that Apple gets, and they're the leading provider of that kind of technology in the world. Now, for a smaller video interview company compared to Apple, to be able to say that they're going to pick up accurately everything that's said in an interview. The other component I've seen is we've done a lot of research around, even if you do transcribe and you get the right language, different cultures speak differently, even within the same country. And a bias can sneak in with technology that's being used that could be evaluating the wrong way and the wrong people. And we've seen a lot of different things around that when evaluating this. So I think AI is playing a part in terms of predicting where the candidate should apply in a chatbot or predicting what recruiters should be involved in decisions. But in terms of analyzing a candidate as they're doing a video interview, it gets kind of risky.
Not so much. We're staying human. So if I'm a candidate, what should I know in order to prepare for one of these interviews?
The best thing that you should know to prepare is really to practice. Oftentimes people get a little bit thrown off during the interview process because they may see themselves or they may have not practiced. That doesn't just apply to video interviewing. If you think about it, how often do you practice just for interviewing? You can get an interview coach, or you can get someone just to sit with you and ask you some questions and prepare some answers. Whether it's through video or any kind of interviewing method, I think candidates should just practice a little bit more. That's something that people don't really think about. It's such a life-changing opportunity, and you're just sort of walking in and hoping that you get the answers right. What I find is that in an interview, the more detailed you are, the more examples you have, the more well thought out interview answers that you're going to say. It's rare that candidates do that. They sometimes just go off the cuff. And so practicing with a webcam, without a webcam, with someone there, by yourself, these are things that people should generally do for any interviewing.
What advice can you share that will help companies feel that video interviews do not have to feel so impersonal? Because I think that's one stumbling block we have.
Yep, we do see that or hear that from time to time. What we found to make it a lot more personal for candidates is to record yourselves. So if you're a recruiter, record a video in your home or on your phone or in your car or in your office of yourself introducing yourself, asking the interview question. Have different managers from your team record themselves. Have staff members who are in the same role give a testimonial of why they are in the role, how they like it, and then have them ask an interview question. When you do the simple act of doing the same thing that you're asking the candidate, we no longer hear that it's impersonal. They actually find that it's a better experience than a traditional interview because now they've met all these people, they've seen these testimonials, they get an idea for the organization. And when you don't have a lot of candidates, which some organizations have right now, the act of having that personal touch through video dramatically makes it for a better candidate experience.
Thank you so much, Sean, for bringing up candidate experience, because that really is the heart of the matter for everybody right now. So thank you again for stopping by, and stay warm, would you?
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the Work Trends podcast, your favorite source for all that's new and exciting in the world of work. If you love what we do here, make sure to share our podcast with everyone you know, okay? And don't forget to tune in to our next episode. Catch up with you next time. Thanks to listening to Work Trends from Talent Culture. Join us every Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern for a live Twitter chat with our podcast guest. To learn more about guests featured on today's show, visit the show notes for this episode at talentculture.com and help us spread the word. Subscribe to Work Trends wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave us a rating, review in iTunes. Share Work Trends with your coworkers, your friends. Look forward to it. See you next time.